What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. And I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020 Podcast News and 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Also know that once a month, I host the only online program in the world for dads and fathers that is sponsored by Dove Men Care. It's also co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. And one of the other things I do is I am the board chair for the Global Food and Drink Initiative, which is a multimedia nonprofit that's committed to showing off and promoting Blacks in the diaspora that are involved in food, wine, and travel. We're broadcasting live on February 14th. Okay, let's get it out. Happy Valentine's Day, but let's have love every day, not just on this particular day. Can we agree on that? Let's do it. Most Sunday afternoons, like we have today at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and around that time, we do a conversation called Black Canada Talking. It's a live online event that provides the Black Canadians the opportunity to give their takes and POVs on stories that are of importance to them. And our guest on today's Black Canada Talking is Elise Harding-Davis. Let's give a little background on Miss Harding-Davis. She's an African Canadian heritage consultant. She's one of the foremost authorities of African Canadian history and events connected to the development and progress of North America. Her unique perception reveals the early presence of African origin pioneers and freedom fighters in British Canada, revealing the invaluable roles of the Black thread in Canadian history. Seventh generation African Canadian, born in Windsor, Ontario. She now resides in Harrow, Ontario. She retired as a curator administrator of the North American Black Historical Museum and Cultural Center and the Nazarene African Methodist I'm going to say this, Episcopal. I hope I got that right. If I butchered it, that's my fault. She'll correct it for me. Church National Historic Site, now the Amherstburg Freedom Museum, after 32 years of dedicated service. At the same time, she taught Black Studies at St. Clair College since 1993 and networked widely with numerous international educational facilities. She was also an executive administrator at the Hotel Dieu Grace Hospital for 6 years, with a portfolio dealing with physician staff complaints and the review and revision of policy and procedure to ensure diversity, cultural competency. She also organized and managed the office of the Member of Parliament for the riding of Essex for 8 years and has acted as his spokesperson throughout the riding. Her passion has given the opportunity to travel globally at universities and Canadian consulates across North America and to countries including China and the continent of Africa, lecturing and promoting the history of people of African descent in Canada. Her impressive volume of work includes numerous guest articles in various newspapers and magazines internationally, and several books including The Black Presence in the War of 1812, chronicling the Black military involvement, and The Colors of Essex County, which concentrates on 13 sacred African Canadian cemeteries in Essex County. She has helped preserve and attain the heritage status for these irreplaceable burial sites. She was a core member of the African Canadian Tour Program and still acts as a tour guide. Ms. Harding-Davis worked on with police forces for several years to devise less biased hiring practices for women, Indigenous peoples, Blacks, and the disabled. She has supported men and educated many minority youth and helping them to develop improved self-image and seek post-secondary education. Let me tell you, she feels that all facets of history have a Black component. Therefore, in her words, quote, without Black history, all history is incomplete. Let us welcome for the first time and hopefully not the last time, Elise. My mind's all messed up because it's such a great bio. Elise Harding-Davis. Ms. Harding-Davis, how are you today?
Oh, I'm fine, Dr. Vibe. Uh, that was a mouthful.
Well, you've done a lot. You've done a
Uh,
lot.
well, I'm very passionate about what I do, and I've been very fortunate to come along in a time frame where I just was able to wind my way through to be a catalyst for positive change.
Well, with the wonderful bio that you shared, I regard you as a catalyst and a tip of the spear for change. So that this is amazing. And wow, I wanted to get through that bio. So if I messed up any of it, it was my head, not my heart.
The only thing, it was the Nazarene African Methodist Episcopal Church National Historic Site. And in
Thank you.
1999, Nazarene became the first National Historic Site dedicated to Black history in the history of this country.
Wow.
National Historic Sites have been being named since 1921. So we just made it under the millennia. And I'm very, very proud of that particular accomplishment.
That's fantastic. Well, what we like to do the first time we have new friends on the platform is we've heard of all these professional accomplishments, but let's cycle back to the earlier days of Ms. Harding-Davis. What were they like? Seventh generation, so obviously growing up in Windsor and different cities. What were those early days all about?
Those early days were all about listening to elders, um, watching my parents run a business. They owned Harding Electric, and my dad trained 14 apprentices, including my sister, who was Canada's first Black female master electrician in 1978. Um, I was an inquisitive kid. I rode my bicycle all over the place, Dr. Vibe. I started volunteering at the church, the BME church that my family attended, when I was 3 years old. I learned to read and write when I was 3 years old. My older brother had sickle cell anemia and often could not attend school. So a teacher came to the house to teach his lessons, and I would sit underneath the dining room table and listen in until she informed my mother that Morris, my brother, was not paying attention to his lessons because he knew that I was. I just was always fascinated with history, any kind of history. And once I got in school, I didn't hear the information that I had gotten from my grandmother in particular. Her father had been born a slave in Missouri and walked from Missouri to Detroit, Michigan, sold fish for 4 years, walked back to Missouri, and bought his wife and four oldest children from their grandfather. His dad was the slave master. They walked back to Detroit, crossed the river in the wintertime on the ice, and ended in Dresden, Ontario, where he had his own stagecoach line servicing the Black people in the area of southwestern Ontario. So you can listen to me and know that I sat and absorbed. I had a friend who was 105 years old who had been born a slave and escaped with her family and settled in Chatham, Ontario. Then came to live with her own granddaughter in Windsor when she was too old to be on her own, and she and I had the most wonderful chats. She would tell me, Elise, remember what I'm telling you. Someday it may be important. I had no idea there'd ever be a Black museum. My dad and mom used to take us all over, Ontario, Quebec in particular, to Black heritage sites in our minds. None of them became Black heritage sites until after the year 2000, which was, again, very exciting to me. I'm going to take these glasses off because the glint's causing me problems. I was very good in school. I remember my teacher allowing me to read, and I was so excited. I had no idea that reading Little Black Sambo was a negative thing, although it certainly was. Once I got to high school, I excelled in sports. I've just gobbled life up. I married young. I have 3 daughters, 5 grandchildren, and each one is a gem. Each one is extremely different and a facet of myself. That's how I see them. I educated myself largely, Dr. Vibe. I went to university. When they were talking about Black history, the professor said, if you want to know about the Underground Railroad and Black history, go to Detroit. That's where it ended. I raised my hand and was told my conversation wasn't necessary that day. So I walked down to the dean's office and quit. When I got home, I had to explain to my parents what I had done. My father tore a strip off me a mile wide. Then he hugged me, told me he was proud of me, but that I had better do something with my life. He said, I don't care what you do, Elise, but you better be good at it. And that's what's been in the back of my head each and every day of my life, that you're only as good as yesterday and you have to keep evolving. And that's what I teach my students. It's a real benefit to me to have the opportunity to help our young people know about a very proud history that stretches back before this was a country, and that we fought and added our contributions to make Canada the great country it is today. And with all of the anti-Black racism that's going on, I'm even more energized to assist them in understanding that they can do anything they want to do and to use their voices to make sure the world understands that we are the black thread in the Canadian tapestry. And without our history, as you've said, all history is incomplete. A lot of the accomplishments that Eurocentric people have taken belong to us. I protect cemeteries because they're the keepers of our history. They're the tellers of our tales. When you read the grave markers, you get an understanding of how long we've been in this country and what we've contributed and overcome to be the bedrock of Canada.
On that, we could just sit on that. That is absolutely phenomenal. Just want to shout out some people that are watching our conversation live. Kevin Messam from New York City. What's up, Kevin? And Donna Paris. I think you know that name. And that's the lady that introduced us to each other. Donna Paris, what is up? saying that this is an expert on Black history. I know that now for sure, that this is an expert in Black history. So many stories that I'm already going to say we need to do a part 2 already, because just what you shared, we can land on. These stories of Black people walking to the border, walking.
Yes.
Can you dive a little bit deeper on that? That's an incredible story right there that I'm sure a lot of Black Canadians, let alone a lot of Canadians, don't know.
Well, when they deal with Black history, they highlight the Underground Railroad, which was a fabled process by which men, women, and children, blacks, whites, Jews, Gentiles, assisted each other in getting from the southern United States to Canada. Now, keep in mind, there wasn't an actual border, so to speak, because the United States, before becoming the United States, was a British colony, just as Canada was a British colony. But the enslavement on the south side of the Detroit River enticed us to come north even before slavery was abolished in Canada. Because if we got to this side of the river, we could filter into the forests. We came by foot. We swam across the river. We walked across that river when it was frozen. And we also came on boats with captains who were conductors. Those were the people who had the means to help us get closer to New Canaan, which Canada was called, because it was the promised land, just as they called it Canaan in the Bible. A person would generally walk at night, following the North Star in the sky, the very bright star at the bottom of the Little Dipper. And on cloudy nights, they could feel moss that grew on the north sides of trees. Most slaves feigned to be ignorant more than they were ignorant. Simply because they couldn't legally read and write didn't mean they didn't know which way north was. And our famous grapevine, passing information along to each other, and particularly after the War of Independence, men fought for the British and were promised property in Canada, particularly, if the British won. Well, the British didn't win. However, United Empire loyalists, many of whom were black, people don't know about that either, got property here. And so they found their way into Canada, and they became conductors, going back and guiding other people through. It's largely believed that the Underground Railroad lasted from about 1833, after the abolition of slavery in British Canada, until 1865, which was the end of the Civil War in the United States. But what I'm telling you is, whether it was called the Underground Railroad or not, it started in the late 1700s, after the War of Independence, which was 1776. And by 1811, many of the names of the Black United Empire loyalists were stricken from the rolls. But I have information in one of the books I wrote, The War of Black Presence in the War of 1812, about such people. They bred dogs.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
They bred dogs specifically to hunt us that would catch our scent. And so we often walked on the water through the end, through creeks or things of that nature, or we sprinkled cayenne pepper, regular pepper that would put the dogs off. There were so many ingenious ways that our freedom flights took.
Amazing. I'm going to divert from the historical, but and focus on you. It seems that you grew up in a very historical environment, and what I mean by that is you had elders who were
Yeah.
sharing their stories with you. When did you decide that you were going to go on this journey to really become passionate to share not only what the elders shared, but what you experienced either personally or resource wise to share it with a greater world?
Dr. Vibe, this path came to me. It's like I was born to do it. As I said, having a friend who had been an actual slave, um, being involved with the ladies in the church, sitting there with my crinoline on an ottoman, learning how to make watercress sandwiches and how to
Mm,
fold napkins around the cutlery. I saw Black people excelling. I didn't know that we didn't. I had no idea. As I said, my parents were in business. We had friends from all different cultures, all different walks of life. Um, I can remember, I'm going to say grade four, writing a story about Black people and how I thought they were such a wonderful culture. I've always been like this. I've always read books looking for one little kernel of information and holding that in my head sometimes 25, 30 years until I came across something else that connected it. That's just how my brain works. Um, People in the community called me the long headed child. I
I
thought I was
like that.
smart. Yeah, it's quite a picture, isn't it?
Yes,
But it's
very much so.
you know, I remember what people told me.
Mm. How important had your parents been in your journey?
Oh, extremely important. I was my mother's right hand man, and I actually was my father's right hand man. At earlier, my older brother was not well, and that marked me too because sickle cell anemia in the 1950s, 60s didn't have much meaning outside of our culture. And no one seemed to know what to be able to do with my brother. My parents had him try all kinds of different processes. He was a guinea pig,
Hmm.
and that always hurt me to see him not be able to play with the other kids, not feel well enough to even sit around and chat and act silly a lot of times. A few years he was in the hospital for the entire year.
Oh
Uh,
my.
yeah, and that was before OHIP. And my
Oh my.
parents pay for transfusions, $100 each, unless someone would give blood. Um, Dr. Vibe, I honestly believe that my mother and father would have been millionaires if they didn't have all of the medical bills that they had to pay for. My
Right.
brother wore a brace on his leg. Um, the marrow in the bone snapped.
Oh
You
my
know,
goodness.
yeah, these are the kinds of things that cause a person to pause and wonder why, and wonder if we were white, would we have gotten better treatment? I remember people stepping back from him when he was trying to get on the bus rather than help him with this straight leg out. Um,
Wow.
One of my prouder moments, too, was when I worked at the hospital as an executive director. I had the opportunity to talk to the physicians about testing babies for sickle cell. It was not cancer of the blood, it wasn't some other malady that nobody understood. It was sickle cell anemia. And there are 5 different strains of it. And it does run in my family. So, all things black pointed out to me that I needed to help educate the world as to how our lives mattered and how we were integral to history.
Oh, that's you're just dropping powerful knowledge bombs all over the place. That is phenomenal. Uh, is your brother still alive?
No,
My condolences.
thank you. I appreciate that. He's been dead for almost 40 years.
Oh my
And
goodness. Wow.
I carry him with me every day.
I received that. I received that. When you started your, I don't want to, with individuals like yourself, I don't call it work, your passion
It is.
for Black history. What got you started? Do you remember the early moments of starting this journey, and what were they like? And were you always met with acceptance, or was it some people pushing back at times?
Well, one of the most powerful instances that I can remember, um, when a man by the name of Melvin Simpson, we called him Mac, decided that he wanted to build and open a black museum in Amherstburg. Now, I knew Mac and his wife Betty. They were the co founders of the museum. This was about 1976, perhaps. And we had been holding art classes and history classes for black children in the Nazarene Church as early as 1964. So, it just always wrapped up in it. But at any rate, um, the government informed Mac that museums could not be attached to functioning churches. There were only 7 members of the church left, but the point was a building had to be found or built. And so Mac decided that he was going to build a building. And he called around to men, the black men in the community that had trade skills and wanted to get their help to do pro bono work to get this museum going, to do fundraising. He asked all the black people in the community, male. And I called him up and I said, "Hey, Mac, what about the women? You don't think we have any use in this process?" He said, "Well, I was talking with Betty and we thought we'd get a women's auxiliary going." I said, "I don't want to do Sunday afternoon teas. I want to help put this museum together." And on the 20, well, I'll say the 19th of September, 1981, we worked until 3 o'clock in the morning, putting exhibits together with black hands, created in black minds, and seen through black eyes. And on the 20th of September, the North American Black Historical Museum opened. The streets were lined as far as you could see. 5 generations of my family attended that event. And that is when it really, really congealed with me that that is where I wanted to be. That's where I had to be. And that's where I went. I worked as a board
Fantastic.
member. I volunteered washing the floors and the washrooms. I bought books. I took courses in museum studies. There was no such thing in university at the time. I paid for all that myself. I honestly believe that my passion was a cause of my divorce. Um,
Sorry to
my
hear that.
my former didn't want to be Mr. Elise Davis, so
Okay. All right.
we're friends now. He
Right.
comes, visits the children. They're his father, and
Yep.
uh, and he now respects that I was serious and that I was driven in such a way I couldn't help myself, Dr. Vibe. I just had to be there. I would sit in that building once it opened, hoping the phone would ring, hoping someone would come in the door, listening to the whispers of my elders telling me that I was doing what was right. And I still feel that way.
Oh, hey, I know from my heart, I know you're doing what's right. And I know there's many others that are knowing that you're doing what's right. And uh, unfortunately, I'm sorry to hear it cost that relationship a little bit, but we love you and we need you.
I thank you so much. I need to hear that. It's very soothing to know that I am loved and wanted, just like any other person. But
You are.
I'm so driven.
Yeah, I was going to ask what this drive seems it has been continuous.
It never stops.
What
Uh,
yeah, like Windsor boy from Windsor saying yes, she is and she's inspiring. Where do you get this drive, this passion, this continuous drive, this continuous passion from?
I myself and people of African origins are as good as anyone else. And in some instances, they have superior skills and abilities. And I feel that there needs to be respect for that, appreciation for that. I write letters to the Prime Minister of Canada asking for a formal apology for slavery in this country. Now, I know that Canada didn't become a country until 1867. However, the aftermath of slavery, which did exist in this country for a few hundred years, created racism, prejudice, second class citizenism, keeping us from reaching our full potential. And I want that for young people.
Hmm.
I want that for every black individual in this country.
That's fantastic. And we appreciate it, and I receive that now. I'll speak on many others. We receive it also. Uh, let me tell you, let me ask you, during your journey of passion for Black history, in the early days, what was a key moment, a key win for you along this journey?
I win by waking up every day because that
Oh,
means
wow.
to give me the opportunity to do it. You know, um, the Nazarene African Methodist Episcopal Church National Historic Site was a big win. Um, Parks Canada and the uh, Park Service in the United States partnered to look at perhaps having National Historic Sites dedicated to Black history. That was in 1994, 95, maybe. At that time, there were only two National Historic Sites dedicated to Black history in the United States and none in Canada.
Wow.
So, fast forward, we got the word that the government was interested in starting to investigate National Historic Sites. So, a, a park would partner with a Black heritage site
Mm-hmm.
throughout Ontario, particularly. And we started the African Canadian Heritage Tour program, which in 1 year had a $9 million trickle down effect financially to this province.
Wow.
And we got signage on the Queen's Highway for
Nice.
Black heritage sites. This is all bonus, bonus, bonus. But then they decided that they were going to quietly look into our site, the Nazarene, becoming a National Historic Site because it had been an Underground Railroad safe house, and many people, many Black people who came into Canada first were addressed as human beings in that building. It was a beacon of hope, a beacon of light. And so they called and asked, do you think you could give us a little information to put together to start with our research? I gave 207 pages and could have given 1,000 more if they had given me the time, but they said, boy, this is good. This will really get us going. And as I said, 1999, it was the first National Historic Site designated in this country, and in 2000 became a dedicated heritage site. Um, Teaching at St. Clair College was a real benefit to me, a real plus that they wanted a Black history. It was the first Black history course, we think, in Ontario.
That's amazing.
Now, Dr. Vibe, I'm going to tell you that I've had 3 heart attacks and 2 strokes.
Come on now.
There must be a reason I'm still here.
It's
Happy
not your
Valentine's
time.
Day.
It's
Happy.
not your time.
No, it isn't.
Wow.
No, I have a lot to do, and I've always felt in my life a real need to get done. If I start something, I have to finish it. If I get an idea in my head, I have to bring it to life. Um, that's just my drive. It's just the way I am.
Excellent. Yeah, there's so much I want to get to, and I know time is so limited here. Uh, let's move on to this. Do you feel Black Canadians in general are as paying attention or as interested in Black history compared to 10, 15 years ago?
A little bit more, but not nearly enough, simply because they aren't taught it in school. I helped to put together a Black Studies program here in Windsor, Ontario, with the Windsor Essex County District School Board. It is still a draft. My sister was on the school board, Shelley, the one I spoke of, who was the electrician, and she passed away about a year and a half ago. And we worked together to do that. And some history is being taught. Whenever I hear of any of the universities starting a course, it thrills me to my soul, but it should be taught each and every day as a part of the regular curriculum. There's French component, there's British component, there's Aboriginal component, and there's no reason that it can't be slotted in. I would do it for them if they asked me.
Mm, I know I am, Natalia Bailey. Good stuff. This is really, really good. What what is the price? Okay, two-part conversation piece here. What is the price to Black Canadians not knowing enough history about this country? And then what is the price to non-Black Canadians not knowing the history of Black Canadians or Black Canada?
Firstly, for my brothers and sisters not knowing their own history, they can be fooled. A lot of the everyday systemic and traditional processes and thinking that we have are not legal. They're not legislated. Then we move on to the legislations that have held us back and pushed us down. And they should know these so that they can get past them and make sure that they are eradicated. Did you know that African Canadians were not actually invited to become Canadian citizens until 1911?
No idea.
Well, those are things we can talk about at another time.
Oh, don't worry. I'm not letting go of you. Sorry. I have some ideas that
Well,
that I'd like to chat with you about, but we
yes,
won't chat with them here. But your passion, your value, your positive value to this country, in my opinion, needs to be amplified and recognized more.
you humble me.
You deserve it. You've earned it, and you wear it well.
And I'm going to continue to earn it because until I'm no longer here, I will reach out to youth.
Oh, don't worry. Don't worry. After this broadcast, we go have a chat. So don't worry about this. No reaching. As I said, I'm not letting you go. I am not letting you go. Oh, here we go. Africa promise it every Saturday on their web. Oh wow. Look at this. People want you. And
Well,
Sarah Youngo, who I have so much respect for. So wonderful to see and hear Miss Harding-Davis. Grateful for the many years of work educating us all about Canada Black history. Don't worry, she ain't done yet. More to come.
and
She
as
just,
for the second part of your question,
yes.
are Eurocentric and Oriental and all other cultures don't understand how strong we are. We have come through a crucible for hundreds of years of being denied, isolated, marginalized, and in some situations during enslavement, even killed. And we are still here because we know how to negotiate not only the land, but people. And we should recognize each other when we see each other in the street. We
You
are
know,
each other's lifeline.
can you repeat that last line?
We are each other's lifeline.
Wow. I've never heard anyone say that before in that way. Also, to there's a gentleman who I very highly respect who's an associate of mine in the United States and the West Coast, D. Chanson Barry. I had him on late last year, and one of the things he said that I'm sure, two things he said that I'm sure you would agree with. One, he said that he's tired because so many years Black people have been making dinner out of scraps.
Yes.
And another thing he said that is that he would just like Black people to stop surviving and start living.
Correct. I agree 100%. I live. You don't have to
Mm,
be, you don't have to be a millionaire and you don't have to be white to live. I'm not
Wonderful.
looking to fit in after anyone else. I'm looking to imagine my best life and live it. That's what I want all of African origin people to do. And when those of us get a little higher, keep the door open.
Say that again, please. Say that again. People need to hear this.
When African origin people get in places that are a little higher, keep the door open, please.
Hmm.
Some of us forget. Some of us actually don't even know what it is to be oppressed and held down as Black people anymore. Very honestly, some have climbed to marvelous heights. I
Hmm.
am saying, should slavery come into vogue again, and we want to watch that carefully, United States is doing some strange things. I don't care if you're a multimillionaire or a street sweeper, you could be enslaved as a Black person. We have to be vigilant.
Windsor boy from Windsor must know you because he has a line here, a charmed life you always tell me. That sounds like that's someone you know.
I think it's someone I know.
Yeah, okay, all right. I received that. Uh Michael Arthur is saying here, words of wisdom. Thank you, Ms. Elise Harding-Davis, and puts his hands up like this. You're dropping knowledge bombs, and Windsor Boy also says you have another documentary.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
I
yes.
tell you, I tell you, I tell
I,
you.
I've been
Uh,
in numerous documentaries, Dr.
well, see, this is why we got to do a part two because we're just scratching the surface today, folks. Like I love it when I meet new friends through this platform, through this blessing, and I've been blessed to meet this new friend today. I'd like to get your thoughts on one word: reparations.
First, let me say this. When slavery was abolished in the British Commonwealth, reparations were paid to the slave owners. Um, large sums of money. When slavery was abolished in the United States of America, the different times it was abolished, because it wasn't one act in particular, um, Southern plantation owners got some benefit from it, if not, and up to including the sharecropping that happened afterwards, where blacks stayed on the plantation owner's property and worked, had to buy everything through the plantation owner's store, and ended up owing more than they made. Reparations is a part of the spoils of war. Countries that lose pay reparations. So, why is there any thought that the descendants of slaves would not get reparations for the work they did? They were the low cost machinery of the day, and they built North America.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. I know that the gentleman who I watch periodically, he's very strong with reparations, and he likes to use the hashtag cut the check.
Hey, you know, um, it put us at such a disadvantage, and it put those who had once owned us at such an advantage. They had insurance policies on us in case something happened to us. Um, the whole economic process that enriched the world My daughter and I read, and we read factual books. And one winter we read royal houses during the 1500s, and how having slaves just expanded. They were able to explore, get to the new world, explore, bring slaves in, have them do the work on the plantations. I mean, untold trillions of dollars. We couldn't even count it. And so there's no reason why reparations shouldn't be paid because they're owed.
Mm, mm. As we start winding it down here, just some few more comments from your heart. Are you concerned about the documentation going forward of Black history, Black Canadian history?
I'm very concerned because a lot has already been lost, obliterated. That's one of the reasons that I work so diligently to um, salvage and save and preserve Black cemeteries.
Mm,
Um, there is information. You know, we were told as slaves, oh, you can't find anything. Yeah, yes, we can. In 2011, a grave marker came up out of the ground in an area where my grandfather had taken me looking for a family marker for years and years. And on it said Elizabeth, wife of Ludwell Lee, and the date of her death and whatnot. Ludwell Lee was my four times great grandfather. His
oh my
mother,
goodness. Wow.
his mother, Keziah, Kissy, that's what we knew her as, was the daughter of Henry Lighthorse Harry Lee, who was the father of General Robert E. Lee. So the man who was the head of the Civil War on the southern side is an ancestor of mine. And
Wow.
we have DNA proof. This is the curious mix that has happened here in this continent. We are a unique blend of cultures. I have Aboriginal, European, and African in my DNA, but my black shows, and I'm proud of it, and that's why I promote it because it's been neglected and overlooked. And all of the history, the deeds, the mortgages, you go to the registry office now, everything's digitized, blah, 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 blah. There used to be paper proof. Just going through old newspapers, people who have documentation in their homes, who some have called and said to me, you know, my family used to be black. Well, I don't know what used to be black means. Your family is part black, and it's a prideful heritage. So, people who have that kind of material, send it to the Amherstburg Freedom Museum. Send it to universities that have black studies. Do not throw it away.
Mm. As you're going along with your passion, are you doing it by yourself? Do you have a team? Are people helping you? Because I know you're Superwoman, but you know you do need a team.
I'm a loner. However, my children had no choice but to be partners. And I partner with numerous organizations and individuals who are researching, um, who are putting together programming. I'm working for the last several years with the UN on the middle crossing process from Africa to the New World, working with a group to try and get um, universal status for the Detroit River as a lifeline in the world. It's we immigrated, we migrated back and forth. We weren't given immigration status. Those of us who parts of our family came through the Underground Railroad, but the Detroit River is a conduit, and so UNESCO has these World Heritage sites. We want it to become a World Heritage site. Well, yeah, I'm very very user friendly. I'll put it that way.
I like that. So for folks, that's old school for what people would call now Googleicious. All right, she's user friendly, not Googleicious. Uh, this has been an incredible, and I don't even think we've started the conversation, to be honest with you.
No, I'd like to do some in-depth stuff.
We are going to chat about that big time as we start winding it down, folks. Too, if you have any questions for this Canadian treasure, not a black Canadian treasure, Canadian treasure, please put them on. And if you'd like to have her back, please put in the comments. Have a number of comments going on in the comments section, in this chat section. Please, give her applause, give her big ups, whatever you want to do. We want to put on the screen because this has been absolutely fantastic conversation.
I'd like to mention two.
At least this is your conversation. I'm just steering the ship. Drive the ship, please.
One is Speakers for the Dead with Hungry Eyes Media. Look
Yes.
that up on your computer. The other is the documentary about Walter Perry and the Emancipation celebrations. Third one is about through Atlantis Films, Whispering, that talks about how the Underground Railroad formed and how we passed our information along and so on and so forth. I've been in numerous documentaries. I love to do them. It gives me an opportunity to get the cobwebs out of my head and actually give valuable information. There's a lot in there. My former husband said he didn't know he could never crack my files because they were but
Oh,
um,
this is okay. So there's comments now coming like crazy. So first question here from Sarah: does she have the Order of Canada yet? No, she doesn't, but we need to work on that.
Wow.
Here's a good question, and I was alluding to it, but Donna is reading my alleged mind. Donna Paris saying, "Have you thought of mentoring someone to carry on your work?"
I honestly tried doing that when I was at the museum, and it didn't work out, and it was very painful for me. Um, in in a form, I have been mentoring a few of my family members. My one daughter is the genealogical expert, and she's sharp. I have my granddaughter is very involved in Black history now. She has blonde hair and
Okay.
blue eyes, and she was admitted to Etobicoke School of the Arts. Out of 1,500 applicants, four were chosen, and she was one. And
Amazing.
during the course of schooling, we had to do some correspondence, and one of the titles was "What Color is Black?" Well, my granddaughter did commentary on what color black is, and when the write up was given back to her, her teacher asked her why, she would ever tell anybody she was Black when she didn't have to.
Excuse what?
And my granddaughter told her to type Elise Harding-Davis into the computer. And she says, "Do you see that face? Look at my face. Why would I not tell everybody I'm Black?"
Wow.
So I know that I have strong individuals. And in a bit of a way, Donna and I've been doing a little bit of mentoring with her. Uh, when she came to Windsor and put that exhibit together of strong Black women, um, I just felt akin to her. And the process that she's doing now, collecting stories of African Canadians all over the country, I submitted some information to be in one of those segments. She's wonderful. And that's how I mentor, Dr. Vibe. I see good in people, I see strength in people. I will give them every ounce of my strength, someone including yourself,
Received.
to push
Received.
us forward. Because it isn't about me, it's about us.
That's
I,
beautiful.
I'm just blessed to be as belligerent, that's a family trait, and determined and dedicated and passionate as I am. I I don't know honestly where it comes from other than in my genes.
Hmm.
Um, and
Amazing.
when I see that spark in others, I will lend myself to them in any way I can to possibly help.
Wow. I don't think there's anything more to be shared from part one. Did you hear what I said? From part one. Okay, well, Natalia's saying, how do we get in touch with you? Is your email address the best way?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna get it up on the screen in just a second here for people who want um, your email address. So we'll put it up on the screen. Yes, I've got. Is the Yahoo one okay?
That's the one. That's the only one.
All right.
I keep it in narrow and focused. There's
Ah.
my email address. And for people who may
Okay, so
be
I'm just sharing that information with the producer now, our producer, and he's going to put up on the screen. Also, for other people that just, if you're watching this live or watching it on replay, I may have the audio replay out in the next few days. But this wonderful Canadian treasure is going to be on TV this week. And interesting you mentioned Hungry Eyes. I do know Suds and his dear wife.
Yeah, they're great people too.
Yes,
Yep.
and Suds went to school with a very, 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 very close friend of mine. They went to high school together.
Mm-hmm.
So I did not know Suds until a few years ago. And this person, oh yeah, him and I went to school together. And yeah, him and his wife are wonderful people.
Yes, they're consummate professionals. Uh, they just keep plowing forward. Their work is exemplary. I was so honored to be in uh, that particular video, and we've been discussing some other things lately. Um, we can do anything. Proof positive.
Absolutely. Well, our Canadian treasure here will be with Jennifer Holness of Hungry Eyes Media on the agenda with Steve Paikin on Tuesday, February 19th at 8 p.m.
February 15th, excuse me.
Oh, sorry, 15th. So that's
16th.
tomorrow.
Tuesday, the
Oh,
16th.
sorry, you gave me 19th. Sorry. So no, the
I
15th, that's the 16th. Tuesday's the 16th.
Dyslexic.
No
It's
problem.
the
So
nines.
let me just correct that. Our treasure here will be with Jennifer Holness of Hungry Eyes Media, who is the wife of Sud Sutherland. of the Hungry Eyes Media team on the agenda with Steve Paikin on Tuesday, February 16th at 8 p.m. Dial into your local TVO station if you're living in Ontario. And also you can check out the TVO website, TVO Ontario website for that conversation. If you don't catch it live, they will have it. I think within 24 hours, I'll have the replay up on their website. I would be incorrect if I don't let you have the last word. What would you like to leave our audience with?
Black History Month was formulated by Rosemary Sadler in Toronto and Jean Augustine in Ottawa, two Black women. I'm often teased that in February, I'm the flavor of the month. I once had a Parks Canada individual say to me, you know, Lisa, in the greater scheme of things, Black museums aren't really that important. They're small potatoes. And I said, well, you know, when you have that great big steak, a small potato makes it a meal. We're integral to all things. Never forget that you come from a rich history full of brave, intelligent people who have helped to make this world what it is today.
Well, these days, we just got the mic drop. We just got the knowledge bomb. Wow. Wow. Wow, this has been an incredible conversation. It's only part one. Ms. Harding-Davis, thank you for all you have done, all you are doing, and all you will be doing. You are true, and I will say it again. Pardon me, and every time I do refer about and to you, you are a Canadian treasure. Thank you for filling my heart today. My heart is full. I'd like to thank everyone who watched this conversation live or on the replay. For those who caught it live, I'd like to just shout you out. Joan, Natalia, Donna. Thank you, Donna Paris, for making this conversation happen. Sarah from New York. We had Kevin Messam. We had Windsor Boy from Windsor. Thank you. And if I've left any of you out, it's because of my head, not my heart. Joan is saying here, thank you, Ms. Harding-Davis, for the information shared. I'm a Windsorite. Thank you, host. Love your spirit. Sarah goes, big mic drop. Blacks have played a big and often minimized role in building Canada. Received and truth. And let's do our part. Let's not just have our Canadian treasure that we shared here carrying the torch by herself. We need to also, it's like a relay race, because one day she'll have to pass the baton, and let's make sure that the baton is not dropped. I'm Dr. Vibe, host and producer of, Abiola too, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Received. I am Dr. Vibe, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of epic conversations. I am the host of Epic Conversations. You have been watching and or listening to Black Canada Talking, which is a live online event that provides Black Canadians the opportunity to give their takes and POVs on stories that are of importance to them, and also get a chance to share their stories. I also was the 2020 Podcast News and 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. And also once a month, I host the only online conversation in the world for fathers that is sponsored by Dove Man Care and Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. And I also am the board chair for the Global Food and Drink Initiative, which is a nonprofit that showcases Blacks of the diaspora who are involved in food, wine, and travel. I always like to end off my conversations with these words. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. love, faith, and respect. Also, Black history is every day, not just February. And there's a lot of people out there that we have to have them share their Black history. And if you want to start with Black history, if you're Black, start in your own family. And lastly, give yourself grace. I'd like to thank BIA Media that helped produce this epic conversation. God bless, peace be well, keep the faith, and walk good.